opportunity for every child to act out their issues of concern that brings them into counseling through play. For example, we use play therapy with trauma. We do a lot of drawing. We do a lot of self-awareness, self-reflection. And we also use play therapy with children to help kids learn to build social skills, which we know are key important skills that they would need in life, because no man is an island. In addition to that, we use play therapy with adults as well, because as adults, childhood trauma or issues from our childhood, if they're not resolved, they often do show back up into our adulthood. And sometimes they impact our lives in our relationships with our spouse and with coworkers on the job, as well as, our happiness, leading to our own happiness. So play therapy gives you an opportunity to just basically, play therapy gives you an opportunity to play out issues of concern.
Okay, is it something new?
Play therapy has been around for quite a while. Play therapy has been around for over 50 years. It started in the 70s. And in addition to that, it has been, it's starting to pick up. Play therapy is international. It's in all countries. And there's very few play therapists in the state of Texas. In addition to that, there's very few play therapists of color in Texas. For example, in the city I live in, there's 35 registered play therapists, but only 3 of us are play therapists of color. 2 African-American play therapists and 1 Latino play therapist. And play therapy is is ever changing, and it is sometimes it's a specialized modality of helping people, not just children, work through their issues or concerns that bring them into counseling.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to start our questions now. What do you feel are some of the drawbacks of remote learning, since everybody is going to, virtual learning? What are some of the drawbacks to it?
Okay, well, in my private practice, so I work in a private practice after 20 years of working in the school district as a special ed counselor and a guidance counselor. I now operate my own private practice. And what we are seeing is parents are expressing concerns with online learning for their elementary or junior high kids. Hard time, with parents are worried about their kids' social skills. They're also worried about them spending so much time, TV time, screen time with the computer. And also they're pretty concerned about their child retaining the information and then how it's being demanded. And then with online learning, they're not able to have that socialization that they need. Especially on the elementary level, we know that having everything we need to learn about people skills, we often learn at the primary years in kindergarten and first grade. And it's so important to have that foundation and those building blocks. So most parents are concerned, do they need to send their kids back, or should they not send their kids back? Should they have to choose between their child's health and their quality of education? Some parents are concerned about the quality of education that kids are receiving online, because online learning is, it focused on the visual learner and not so much the kinesthetic learner. What happens to the kid who likes to build Legos and who likes to build projects, who's your future engineer or pilot, or mechanic who likes to put things together? What happens to their learning style when they have to sit in front of a computer for a certain length of time and then go off and do paper and pencil homework?
I never thought of that, because, you're not using your hands or anything. You're sitting at the computer and the teacher is talking to you, and they can show you a video or something, but it's still not the same. It's really not the same. It says how to keep my child on schedule during remote learning. That's a big one.
That is a huge issue of concern. Sometimes students, I think we're starting to see more kids having a hard time staying focused when they're doing online learning. Some kids, even those with disabilities such as ADD or ADHD, they have a different learning modality. And sometimes it's hard for them to give all their attention to just listen to a lecture pretty much. We know that online learning has been taking place for over the past 15 to 20 years for college students and adults. And sometimes that is hard for adults to stay on task for an hour at a time and then take a break or then come back in another hour. So I always encourage parents to have a designated spot where the kiddo is going to do their learning, just like parents are working from home and they are trying to balance all their Zoom meetings that they're required to do for their job, and their kid is in the other room learning with their Zoom meetings, learning, doing virtual learning. I always encourage parents to have a designated place for the child to do their education and put them on a routine. Sometimes instead of just saying, you have to get up and put your shoes on, you got to brush your teeth, you got to be in front of the computer, I encourage the parents that I work with to create a visual schedule, have pictures of each task the child must do. Wake up in the morning, there's a picture of waking up. There's a picture of brushing your teeth. There's a picture of getting to your desk. There's a picture of getting your breakfast. So have their routine put on a visual schedule and make that child responsible for following the routine. Each time they complete a task from the routine, have them pull it away from the Velcro strip or have them, give it a check mark. And then at the end, the child is rewarded. I do ask parents to consider establishing a reward system for their child, because this is a new style of learning. In school, if they needed help, they just raise their hand and the teacher come to them. Well, now they don't have that anymore. And with parents in the other room struggling to, keep afloat of what they're doing with their job and trying to monitor what their child is doing, we just assume that the kiddo is engaged in the Zoom. And then when it goes to independent work, sometimes the kiddo get the work done, sometimes they don't. And so I would encourage parents to have a designated spot, have a visual schedule, create a reward system, which can be something very small. Create a reward system. In addition to that, I ask the parents, if your child has science, say from 9 a.m. to 9:45, and then, at 9:45, they go into individual learning from 9:45 to 10:30, independent work. Set a timer. As the kid moves from one subject to another, have the kiddo set timers. And then if my kid is going to do independent work for 45 minutes, if I hear that timer set, then I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, because after 15 minutes, I'm going to come out of my work meeting, even if I had to come out for a bathroom break, and I'm going to check in on my kid. So this way my kiddo is not getting lost. 45 minutes is going by and the assignments are not being done. So check in on your kids. See if they need any help. Remember, the teacher's not always right there beside them to help them now. This is the new learning modality for them.
And that's good when you're talking about the routine. Yeah, and it's like you need to go to bed at night. Still set that time to go to bed.
Yeah.
What about those, they're used to, especially I guess 6th grade on up to 12th grade, they're used to going from class to class. And so they're sitting now. Should we give them like a little break in between, let them stand up, do something different?
Absolutely. The 5 therapists that work in my practice, I bought a mini, it's like a little mini bike. You can use it to move your hands, or you can put your feet on it to pedal your feet. No one can sit still for hours at a time, and it's not taxing on the body. So yes, I would say schedule time for them to have their lunch, schedule time for them to get up and move around so that they're actively engaged and not just, I wouldn't let them do homework in the bed because that's too easy for them to get distracted. So yes.
You said that, and my grandson, the teacher told him she did not want to see a bedroom anymore, laying up in the bed.
Right.
You need to come. And just me personally, I may not get fully dressed, but I put on clothes, comb my hair, put my earrings in, and then I go to work, even if I don't have students that day. Okay, the next question, and anybody that's on, if you want to put a question in the chat, I'll tell Dr. Chapin. What kind of behaviors can I expect to see from my child during this pandemic or when my kids return to school in person?
Yes. So the number one, what we're hearing from parents is anxiety. Sometimes that shows up as nervousness or apprehension of going back to school, because kids, they're very smart. They hear the media, they know what's going on. Maybe they don't know fully about COVID, but there's tons of ebooks that are free. I would like to share at the end of this, at this webinar, at the end of this Zoom meeting webinar, how you can talk to your kids about corona. It talks to them about preparing to go back in school. I know some big districts are starting back to school tomorrow with the kids coming in person. Kids will need to practice social distance, and that's one thing parents will have to talk to them about, some of the new rules. And the schools are doing a lot of things to keep kids safe. Parents are oftentimes concerned and nervous about sending their kids back to school, and rightfully so, rightfully so. So sometimes you may see that if if your kids over here, you talking to their grandparents or their aunts about about COVID cases, they may become a little nervous, or even about going back to school. They even will become a little nervous and apprehensive about going. Sometimes they may want to go to be with other kids, but it's going to sometimes maybe be a little hard for them to know that they can't hug the teacher anymore. I personally, my husband and I have a 5-year-old at home, and she went back to school. She actually went back this summer. She went to summer camp at her school this summer. She went back because we really felt she needed the socialization, and they could put some measures in place to keep kids safe, which they have. But I will say that she was a little nervous about taking her mask off to eat. So kids just need to be educated on what they should and should not do when they go back to school. Like, the social distance. Schools have, they're sanitizing around the clock, down all the way down to the doorknob. There's certain bathrooms that are closed. There's only certain bathrooms, only so many people can go in at a time. So they're taking a lot of precautionary measures. I know some school districts have plexiglass between the kids, and the kiddo had to take the plexiglass each where they go. Often school districts are requiring the kids to have their own notebook, their own tablet. So there's like no pencil sharing and things of that nature. So you might see a little nervousness when you drop your kid off and they're like, oh, I don't want to say. They may want to be around other people, but they're just afraid because they know COVID is out there. But if you read to them some of the ebooks explaining what COVID is and how we can win the fight on COVID, and how we are basically how we have gone from knowing very little in February to knowing a whole lot here, and as of next week of October.
Okay, thank you. And I know parents are wondering this: how do I balance my work life when I'm working from home in Zoom meetings and supervise my child's learning?
Yes, yes. So this is where the behaviors come out. When kids sometimes don't have, when they don't have the skill set, or when they don't understand and the teacher's not right there. So that puts the parents in a position where they have to be the parent and they have to be at work. So I would encourage, so this is where you may see a little pushback, a little rebellion. You may see your A+ star student kid not completing work, having missing assignments. Again, this is where I would use a visual schedule, and also I would use a timer as they go from one subject to another. And when it's lunchtime, I would encourage parents to come together at lunch, try and pair their lunch up whenever the kids' lunch is. And so you all can sit together and talk about the kiddos' work. How's your work going? This way you can stay, as parents, you can stay in touch with what the assignments are, and not hear from the teacher like 2 days later. It's like, oh yeah, little Johnny's missing this assignment. You're like, what? I'm right in the other room. So just having a check and balance, checking in to see, taking a break, checking in to see if your child needs anything, if they understand the lesson, and be open to reaching out to the teacher via chat or email, and have the teacher re-explain the work or put it in writing. Oftentimes teachers this is new for them as well. And so most school districts are asking teachers to have grace, because it's new for the kids, it's new for the teacher, and also for the parents. The schools are just trying to, I think they were grappling with it in March. It took us all by surprise. But I think as kids go back and as school has resumed online, most school districts, they have a really good contingency plan, and they know how to move forward with helping getting our children to where they need to be. Most parents are also concerned about the education gaps. What is this going to do to my kids' test of the STAR test, which didn't happen this spring? What is that going to do to my kids' scores? Is my child going to experience any retention in reading and math and things of that nature? So I would say have a time where you all can come together, whether it's at lunchtime, and work on some of the child's work together, or come together at lunchtime and do something that's engaging. If your kids are in elementary, maybe put puzzles together, maybe build Legos, maybe go outside and do an activity. Maybe you all can go for a family walk or go in the backyard and play kickball or softball or something to that nature.
And
Yeah.
you said one thing that I think some people forget is that the teachers, this is new to most of them. And you can have
It,
very good teachers who are used to teaching face to face. They're used to
yeah.
hands on.
Yeah.
I told somebody, I said, you have to remember, some teachers basically did not have a computer at home. They did
That's
all of their work at school. That's the reason why when you passed by and it was still a teacher there at 6 o'clock, he was doing their, their work. So thank you for that. Um, a lot of people want to know, how can I help my child when they become nervous or anxious or feel overwhelmed?
Yeah, so that's another way anxiety comes out. Sometimes anxiety shows up in differently in children. Sometimes kids begin to cry when they feel that they're overwhelmed with their work, or sometimes they're scared to get. Sometimes you may have the perfectionist child and they're afraid to get something wrong, or they feel that they don't have anybody right there by their side, like the teacher would walk around and facilitate the room. Parents are not always able to be in the room with them when they're doing their Zoom lesson or their seesaw. Different school districts use different platforms. But I think if the parents are able to basically let the kids know again about some things that they can do, just staying in touch with your child. And when they have some anxiety, this is where we come in as counselors. School counselors are available to help kids as well while they're working online platform or if they're in person. So we do a lot of this is where my school counseling experience comes in, as well as a licensed professional counselor. We do a lot of activities to help kids calm down. In my practice, I work with kids with this game called Catch a Bubble. And the younger the kid, the easier it works. I even work with this game with 3-year-olds, where you ask the kid to blow a bubble or have the parent blow bubbles to the child, and that the kid has to be completely still and calm, and then the bubble will come to them. And sometimes they catch a bubble on their finger, on their arm, and it basically helps kids to self-regulate and calm themselves down. Another activity that can be done to help kids calm down is have them create a worry box. Write down different things that they're worried about. Sometimes kids are worried to go to school because of corona, or maybe they're afraid that somebody's going to get corona, or if somebody's in their family is going to get sick with corona. So have them write down whatever they're worried about, put it in the box, and then when they can have a chance to sit with an adult, whether it's the school counselor, their licensed professional therapist, or their parent, and talk about those worries and process those worries.
Okay. If anybody has questions for Dr. Chapin, you can put them in the chat. What do I say to my child about when things go back to normal? And then what is normal?
Yes, that is yep. So we have our ebook that talks about what happened to normal. Normal is missing right about now. And I do like to use a mode of counseling called solution focused therapy. I first learned solution focused therapy in 2016 by my licensed professional counselor supervisor, Dr. Linda Metcalf, over at Texas Wesleyan University. Solution focus helps the child look at what their preferred future is. So we can't control the future. We're not so sure when we're going to have a active vaccine that can eradicate corona. So what I like to do with children who are concerned about the normal, when are things going back to normal? My own child says, Mommy, when are things going back to normal when there's no corona? I want to go to the beach. It's like, wow, right now everybody's going to the beach. This is not a good time to go. But I asked them, what is it? What's the one thing you can do? What is it that you want to do when corona is gone? And then we write down some of the things that she want to see change, or write down what the child want to do, where they want to be. So this technique is called solution focused therapy, having the child determine their preferred future, what they want to see instead of what's actually happening around them. This empowers the child to be able to say, this is what I want to have happen, and then this is how I can get there. Solution focus asks the miracle question. If a miracle happened tonight, when you go to bed tonight, if a miracle occurs, what would be different tomorrow? How would you know that a miracle has happened? And so we have the person explain what would be different in their life. So with a kid who's worried about corona, I may ask them, when you go to bed tonight, if you had 3 wishes the next day, what would your 3 wishes be? And oftentimes they would say, I would be back to school, things would be back to normal. Well, then we could ask them, what does normal look like? What would you be doing? What would you be saying? Where would you be? So again, it's taking the child step by step, or the person step by step, to describe their preferred future of what they prefer to see happening in their lives, and work toward those preferred futures, those positive goals, and what small little tiny change they can make in their lives to get them closer to their preferred future.
Okay, thank you. Should I send my child back to school? Or should I have to choose between my child's education and their health?
That's a tough question. That's a question that every parent is going to have to answer. And it's not, it is, you have to answer that question. How important is it going back to school for your child? How important is it for your child to stay home? If your child stay home, if anybody goes out in the family to get groceries or go to work, is that risking, getting corona? So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons. What are some of the pros of sending your kid back to school? What are some of the cons? Most parents share that their biggest fear is getting their kid getting corona from another child, because you don't know where other families travel to on the weekend. When you send your kid back, yes, you are taking the risk that other kids may have traveled out of town, or maybe someone has corona, and then yeah, it's always a risk. But trust, the schools are doing everything in their power. A lot of schools are taking temperature checks. They even have the teachers take temperature checks. They're using hand sanitizer. As soon as they come into the building, there's a huge gallon of hand sanitizer. There are washing stations. They have the rooms cleaned, the water fountains sanitize, everything, bathrooms sanitized every 2 to 3 hours. So they're taking a lot of precautionary measures to keep our kids safe. And unfortunately, nothing is 100%. Nothing is going to be 100%. Most schools are working, requiring kids to wear masks, no exception. If they're over a certain age, first grade, I think in my child's school, first grade on up has to wear a mask. Now she's in kindergarten, but she does still wear a mask. She doesn't have to, but first grade on up must wear a mask. So the schools are doing, we've been very satisfied. We haven't had any complaints. She's been back in school since June, and we're in October now. So her school's done a really great job with, doing their COVID procedures. But again, all schools are cleaning, they're sanitizing, they're only letting they're doing the distant learning. Some parents are concerned about, can the school actually support distant learning? Are there enough adults to supervise the distant learning? How do we know? Because parents are not allowed in most of the schools. They want to keep as many people out as possible. I do remember dropping my child off to school in June, and I thought, oh my goodness, I couldn't go back in there and get her. I won't have access to my kid until 3 o'clock. And so, but just know that most teachers are taking pictures and keeping you updated and staying in contact with you if you have any questions, or how your child is doing. And they're doing a lot of things that they manage inside the classroom too. So there's this registered play therapist supervisor. Her name is Lynn Louise Wonders, and she puts out every Monday or Tuesday, she sends out all these resources, ton of resources. She's provided 19 different books on how to talk to your kids about anxiety, how to talk to your kids about corona, and how to talk to your kids about returning to school. And this is a list of books that I want to share with the audience.
Okay. When you talk about therapy, people sometimes put a wall up, therapy versus I'm not well or something like that. How do we get past that point, especially for children? You know, people from the old school said, well, if you spank him and sit him down, he won't do it again, but he keeps doing it again. So how do you talk to parents and make them feel it's okay that their child is in therapy?
Okay. So yes, that is, I want to specifically talk about therapy with certain communities. So therapy, counseling, sometimes in certain communities have a negative stigma to it. So we have to just educate the public and let them know that counseling is just about talking about feelings, thoughts, and emotions. It doesn't mean that there's a psychiatric issue of concern. That doesn't mean that we don't, as psychotherapists, as counselors, licensed clinical social workers, licensed professional counselors, licensed master social workers, licensed psychologists, we don't prescribe medication.
Mhm.
So, sometimes there's a stigma that, the term crazy comes up. We do not prescribe medication. That's a psychiatrist, which is totally different from us. We're not working with, looking at how your mind works. We're working with the most intricate part of who you are as a person, your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions.
Mhm. And you remember I told you that I had a minister one time, and his thing was that we should think more about therapy. And he said also, he said, pray. He said, pray that you get the right therapist. That was his thing, pray you get the right therapist. What's the
Yes.
youngest client that you've had?
3-year-olds, preschoolers. Oftentimes, because I have a background in special education, I work with 2 large school districts around the DFW area and the Tarrant County area, 2 of the largest school districts. Had the privilege of working for those districts and learned a lot. Working as a special ed counselor gave me the opportunity to help kids shape their behavior and actually help kids learn how to do self-regulation, build social skills, and just focusing on their social emotional learning. So I have lots of experience with that. So a lot of times I do see kids who have been kicked out of preschool. I do see 3-year-olds. The youngest I've ever worked with is 3-year-old. And oftentimes it's not just me and the 3-year-old in the playroom. Is I bring the parent in as well. In play therapy, we call it filial play therapy, where we basically help the parent learn different parenting with their child. I know most people, particularly in the community I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm actually from Stop Six. So yes, I'm a proud member of Dunbar. Went to Dunbar and graduated. Yeah, Wildcat. I went to Dunbar 6th, 7th, and 8th grade center. Then I went to Trimble Tech High School and graduated in '90. So I know that in my community that spankings were the key thing to go to. But now that can become problematic if you spank and leave a bruise, which allows CPS to come in, and nobody wants CPS in their life. They don't want to take kids away, but just even them investigating can be a nuisance. So I always try to help the parents find alternative ways to get their child to become compliant without the physical spanking. And, I guess, logically people think, oh, if you spank them, they won't do this behavior again. But actually the behavior does repeat. And even in the school setting, there's no spanking, but the teachers and the principals are able to get the kids to comply. And as a parent, you have a closer relationship with your child than the teachers and the principals. But if the teachers and other school staff can get kids to be compliant at home, you can as well. So I do a lot of filial play where I coach parents or work with parents and the child into building positive discipline for parents, and also working with assertive discipline for parents, where the parents become assertive but not aggressive. Instead of getting into the power struggles with the preschooler or the teenager, getting into a power struggle, just basically giving a directive and then disengaging. So it becomes the child's choice whether they want to comply or not comply. If they don't comply, it's going to be consequences. But once you get into that power struggle with them, they've got you. When you start to yell and have your own fit, when they're having a fit, and then they brought you down to their level and they won. Mhm.
Would you tell them more about your practice and where you're located?
Yeah, so I worked for the school district for 20 years. It was a wonderful experience. But then I decided to try and shift a little bit. I thought, wow, I'm spending more time at the school than I am with my own new child, my own baby. So I decided to pursue my license and professional counseling. And I decided to do that. And so I opened my own practice as of March the 3rd of 2018. So I started my journey in 2015 to become a licensed professional counselor. And I graduated from Amberton University. I have two master's degrees from there, one in school counseling and the other one in professional counseling. And Amberton is a wonderful school for counseling. And so I decided to finish up my PhD in October of 2015. And so I decided to open my own practice in March 3rd, 2018. So I have a small practice, and it's just started out as me. And it's right here in Arlington, Texas, right off of Little Road at 4275 Little Road, Suite 101. I started off just myself, and I have two other therapists that are in this area. Shaniqua Alford, she has a practice in Arlington as well. It's called Restoring Serenity, and she helped me quite a bit. And we're not sorority sisters, we're in different sororities, but we are like counseling sisters. We support one another, and she's very supportive of me. And then I have another friend, Dr. Sheena Sprayberry, Dr. Shay, and we both were counselors in a school district, and we both have our PhDs from the same university. And so those two ladies were very instrumental in helping me start my practice. So my practice is called Better Tomorrows Begin Today. Because the truth is, we all deserve a better tomorrows. We don't know, we don't know what tomorrow brings, but we deserve to have a better tomorrow. And one way to get to a better tomorrow is to start right now today. And so we do offer counseling. We've grown since 2018 in two and a half years. We've grown from one counselor to 6 counselors. We also have a Spanish-speaking therapist. We also work with children and adults. We work with children experiencing trauma. We specialize in working with children with behaviors. We specialize in working with adults who experience trauma and kids who have anxiety and depression, and we work with teenagers as well. We do accept all insurance. We accept all managed care Medicaid. We also accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, Sky Blue White, United Healthcare, Aetna Better Health, Superior, and Better. We accept everyone except for Humana. We just haven't gotten that contract yet with Humana. So yes, but we are available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we have Saturday appointments available. And we have 4 associates, 1 licensed clinical social worker, and myself, a licensed professional counselor.
So you have something for everybody.
Yes, we do. And our trauma specialist work with our, she does accept Medicare and Medicaid, and she does work with families who've experienced natural disasters, such as families who have been displaced by the various hurricanes like Harvey and this latest hurricane travesty. So we do accept Medicare and Medicaid and insurance. So, and we also accept cash pay. We're so excited to finally be contract with AmeriGroup, and it seems like they have everybody's on AmeriGroup. So yes, we do have. We also offer a sliding scale fee for clients who don't have insurance. Or we have couples counseling. This pandemic has been really hard on relationships and marriages. We've seen a lot of people experience conflict when they're stuck in the house and people are losing their jobs. It was very hard in the month of March, April, and May. And so we do have a sliding scale fee. We offer $35 an hour for a counseling with one of our associates who all have their master's degrees. And we also offer a $40 special for couples counseling. And we have Saturdays and Sunday appointments available at $40. These sessions are normally $125, but we do have a sliding scale fee to help people get the help that they need for counseling.
One thing that you said though, and I think people don't think about it, is trauma for children. And you talk about, you know, the hurricanes, you talk about, I guess, people in California, the fires and so
Yes.
forth, you know, those kind of things. We appreciate everything. And I don't see anybody write anything in the chat. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yes, I wanted to share that we are set skilled counselors of highly trained, and we all have at least 2 master's degrees, and we're working toward expanding. We just moved from upstairs to downstairs, and we're soon adding a nurse practitioner and a psychologist to our group. So yeah, we're very
In
excited.
years, you've expanded a lot.
Yes, yes, because there's a great need. And I will say that counseling is new to um, to certain communities. I want to speak about the African American community specifically. Counseling is new to African Americans and Latino community, and so we're starting to see more clients that are African American and Latino who want to come into counseling. Because of COVID, we're doing all of our counseling completely online, and we're trying to get acclimated to our new office too. So we're doing everything online because we want to keep our clients safe, and we want to stay safe as well. But we anticipate opening back up and having more sessions in person once this COVID numbers go down. We do accept a lot of clients don't know that their counseling can be paid from through their job with employee assistance program. So most jobs, 90% of jobs do offer an EAP, is what is called employee assistant program. And they go in, they pay for so many sets of counseling for their employees. It could be anybody in their family that lives in their household can receive counseling. So that means we can touch on issues with behavior, with kids. Sometimes kids, when they're nervous about COVID or concerned about COVID or stressed or they miss their friends, then sometimes they will act out, become shut down or become non-compliant or stubborn or just, act out that they normally don't. And so sometimes you can see that behavior, but we've had lots of parents use their employee assistant program through their job, and they usually pay anywhere from 3 to 8 sessions, and it costs the parents nothing. But we're able to be online with the kiddos and help them work through the issues or concerns that they're having. Mhm. So everything is HIPAA compliant too. So yes.
And I know you said you were going to give them some information, and if you send it to me, I can put it out for you on,
Okay.
on the ebooks. I would like to thank Sarah, Dr. Valencia Chapin for her time. I do think that it's very important that people know that that counseling is okay, that
It
therapy
is.
is okay. And like you say, you're not giving people any kind of medications or anything. And sometimes
No.
somebody to talk to other than that person, you know, somebody's always going to agree with you and a different perspective. So thank you so much for joining us, my Sarah. I
Thank
appreciate
you. Laura. Thank
it.
you. It's a pleasure to be.
And I'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You
Bye
too.
bye. Thanks. Bye bye.